Ladies and gentlemen, I am incredibly happy to say that, you know what? They did it. They did it, and they did it good. Alright, Tactics Ogre Reborn. Let's go ahead and review this thing. Okay, so, first of all, for the new folks, what exactly even is a Tactics Ogre to begin with? What exactly sets this game apart from, the many other depressing chess simulators out there? So, here's the thing. Back since the SNES, Tactics Ogre was a kind of a weird thing when it came to, the genre as a whole. It wasn't there to tell you a story of heroics and all this amazing stuff that all these people did, and tell you about how all these good things are going to come out in the end. No, you see, Tactics Ogre and the Ogre Battle Saga as a whole is basically just a series of technically interconnected, but also basically unconnected, stories over people surviving through various conflicts. And I'm talking, like, they actually go fairly deep in terms of making you actually believe that. Now, like, for example, like, let's say in Fire Emblem, you remember how it was kind of a big deal, how for one of the entries, there was a big betrayal and some of your characters actually died? Now, imagine if the entire game was like that, where basically, depending on who lived, died, whatever else, choices you've directly made or indirectly made or whatever else, and it just sort of worked it out on the fly. It just sort of figured out what exactly, the story should be at the time, and it just constantly kept adjusting itself, kept changing the story every time you played through, just changing all these little details based on all kinds of things you never even would figure that they would ever consider thinking about. I mean, we're talking about a case where, like, you know what, I think I'm just going to go throw in a scene right here, where it's like one of my favorite moments going through this game upon realizing that, like, there's one scene where, technically speaking, you're supposed to meet up with a lot of members of one faction on a boat. Essentially, they are lending you their boat, and it wouldn't be a really big deal, in most circumstances. It's just some people getting on a boat. But depending on how many people of that faction have made it and under what circumstances, the actual tone of the scene can be entirely different. And one time, a little while ago, I just figured, you know what, I wonder what would happen if I just went and just kind of ensured that nobody made it to the boat? Just kind of, to see if they even thought about it, like, would it just skip the boat? Oh no, it would not skip the boat.
We owed them nothing. You know that. Self-preservation is our foremost duty now.
We stood by as they went to their deaths, sister.
Save your worry for us. We can mourn the dead when we're safe.
Instead, they're like, oh, so instead we're going to have a scene over the main character being depressed. We're just going to go ahead and have his sister point out that he's being a bit of a wuss, and it's really time to be paying attention to their own survival right now. But, like, you have to understand that this is kind of the mindset of this game. You have to understand that it's a situation where they go above and beyond in every thinkable category, and even the unthinkable ones. Like, when they were remaking this, one of my favorite things was the fact that you could regularly interact with the environment in a lot of fun ways. Like, for example, shield bashing units around the field or off of cliffs or whatever else with your shield. It's a very physical feeling game, and they have even expanded on this, because it was always fun being like, okay, let's corral a unit over to a cliff and just push them right off. Why should I bother dealing with them when I can just make sure they don't exist anymore? But instead, they're like, okay, screw it. You know what? Your shield can now affect heavy units. You can have spells critting to knock units around, which it's incredibly satisfying to see stuff like a tornado hitting the field, and suddenly you see all these units getting scattered about in different directions. Like, one goes flying straight off a wall, two of them end up flying into traps, and like it's just so good. It's so good. It's so solid in terms of its execution and everything else. I mean, the PSP version kept me interested for over a decade. I made an entire channel primarily dedicated to covering the cool stuff that game does. And I've been ranting about it like a lunatic for years, and I still have tons that I could potentially cover in that version, but I don't even need to, because this one has taken that original version, it's taken what's good about that original version, and it's taken care of the bad stuff. It's gotten the, there were cases where somebody could find themselves stuck in a bit of a grind loop. There were, technically speaking, it wasn't something that you needed to do, but it is something the players could easily run into. But still, they've taken care of that issue. They've gone and they've made skills a lot easier to understand. They've made gear a lot easier to understand. They've taken crafting, and honestly, people would have been happy with crafting just being guaranteed. But they didn't stop there. They're like, okay, what if we made crafting its own kind of interesting minigame right now? It's not like a real, proper minigame. I'll explain what I mean in a moment, but I mean, we're talking about a case where they're like, okay, so we're also going to include a whole thing where it's going to give you a breakdown of what all of your units are equipping at any given time and give you options for, you know, just going and upgrading their equipment while they're actually wearing the stuff. Transforming old weapons into new ones, have a whole like post-game weapon upgrade system that they added in there as well for all the folks that want to go, you know, explore all of the post-game content. I mean, in terms of how much potential stuff there is to do in this game, if you wanted to keep going at it, I mean, I've been going at it with knowledge of the original, with knowledge of where to find things and how to do it effectively, and I've been going at it for over a month straight. Again, just basically speedrunning this stuff, and there's clearly still entire layers down there that I have not even approached, like, that I know are over there, because I've seen the signs of them being over there, and there just hasn't been anything even that I can get a hold of yet. Like, it's just crazy to me that they went so hard on this remake that even for longtime players, you will find tons and tons and tons to just experience completely anew here. I mean, when it comes to the skills, I was extremely worried upon first seeing it, just thinking, okay, maybe, you know, with all of these skill reworks and whatever else, maybe they've simplified it a bit, you know, a bit too much. I'm seeing 4 skill slots, and that's what a lot of people thought, like, oh, we're just going to see skill slots, we're going to use the same system as before. Oh, no, 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 no. That, man, it is so wonderful to see how they did this, but this is the most elegant rework of a system I think I've ever seen. In fact, I was doubting for years that they'd be able to remake something like Vagrant Story until I saw this game. Good lord. It's truly something remarkable. Like, okay, basically what we're used to in the PSP version is you had 10 skills and you would just put a mix of passives and different skills on there. Technically speaking, it's down to 4, but did they simplify it? No, they reworked a lot of the utility of a lot of things that you would have done over to your finisher system over here. They've reworked some of it into items. A lot of your gear, like for example your movement effects, you've got Swift Foot on your leggings, you know, you just run faster in your metal pants. You can upgrade your gloves for climbing better. You can upgrade your, you can basically waterproof your armor for swimming through water better. You basically have skills that were very, very niche and kind of situational in terms of how they would work before, reworked into the weapons themselves. So, for example, a lot of folks didn't understand how something like parry worked in the original, wherein you had to basically have a weapon equipped in order to be able to deflect something using that weapon instead of your shield. And so, you, like, look, we have a situation right here where this guy is stacking 2 different versions of parry right now over here on the top. So something that would have been previously like you sit there and you take chance rolls to repeatedly keep trying and, you know, upgrading your unit. Instead, you can just be like, okay, he's got 2 different weapons for 2 different types of parries over here, so he's basically got multiple layers of sort of save rolls on his defensive side there. It gets very deep with a lot of these mechanics, and what's funny is they've somehow managed to simplify this whole thing to the point where you can just instantly swap stuff around and know exactly what you're getting, but at the same time, no depth was actually lost. Like, I know, I already hear the one person clickety-clacking out a comment there. I'm like, oh, but I can't put counterattack and parry on the same unit at the same time. Can't you? There's nothing, like, they added variants for everything. They thought of everything. I mean, it's incredible to me how elegant this rework was. It is insane to me how much stuff they've actually changed. And by the way, technically speaking, I didn't mean to show that unit that I was showing there, but look, this game's story is not something that I can realistically spoil. It's not the what of what happens in this game that actually matters in terms of how it feels, because not many games will go this hard in terms of making you feel the story. You can play through the same route, make a few minor decision changes, and the entire feel of the route will be entirely different. Like whether you managed to save somebody or not, whether just some random character got shot off a cliff or something, whether you just insulted somebody so they didn't end up showing up to a fight later. You can have just a million different variables. Like I've seen the Reddit going crazy over what route should I go with for my first playthrough. Don't worry about it. Just feel it. Just play it. Because since the PSP version, once you complete the game, you can just go back on that same save file, take that same team, and take them down a different route through the story. It is very, very user-friendly. It is incredibly user-friendly, far beyond anything that I expected. I mean, I will mention there's even a few cases where there's a lot of things that I know that my version that I've been playing will be different once the day one patch hits, because there's a few little things that I'm positive they will have patched out by then, just like little, you know, minor issues or whatever else. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure that that by this point somebody else must have reported the fact that bind, shackle, and stop are technically all combined into one thing, and this one technically still says shackle. But look, they have covered every little detail. The fact that they forgot one line on the Cyclops is nobody's ever used a Cyclops, don't lie to me. But I just used it because he looks funny, and because my daughter was joking about, well, my daughter was singing Purple People Eater in the background. I was like, you know what, I'm going to recruit that Cyclops, I'm going to name him Purple People Eater. But look, like, in terms of your choice, in terms of your freedom of how you're going through this game and whatever else, the overall user-friendliness of this experience is just utter insanity, to be completely honest. Again, I was shocked that they managed to just basically take the boring stuff out of the PSP version and just improve it to the point where you can just quickly play as if you were playing the PSP version optimally. Like, I think those who know as to why I have so many dang dragons on this team, but even that experience has surprisingly been streamlined. I actually don't know if this is still how you do the thing that I'm trying to do with these dragons, but what I do know is that I'm going to find out. There's a few things that I'm going to cover in the deep dive that will kind of go into the mechanics more. But just know that, everything from the PSP version depth-wise is here. And it's redone in a super elegant way. I mean, you do have a few of the things that I know folks were asking to be fixed that seem like they were intentionally not fixed for thematic reasons. But yeah, no, it's a thing of absolute beauty. I mean, even the minor stuff that they added for this one, like, for example, with Azelston, here, let me put a little cut here to show you one of my favorite scenes in the game, actually. Which, by the way, I should clarify, these scenes that I'm showing, I guarantee most folks have never even run into those, because, like I was saying, this game is very heavily emphasized towards interactability, okay? Basically, there's a lot of interaction with the story, a lot of little nuance, like, it's not even just direct decisions. Like, the when and how of a bunch of different events can lead to a completely different feeling run. But any scenes that I'm showing, I guarantee most people haven't even run into them because they're kind of out there. They're kind of out in the fringes.
Left here by pirates, as proof they lived. A pirate's life is no glorious affair, and neither's his death. A few manage to come ashore, take a wife, raise a family, but most don't live half so wise. After your first captain and your last crew are gone, there's no one left to remember you. That's why they leave their swords. A nameless grave beats just nameless. If you can't leave your mark in any other way, you leave it here.
Thus, a sacred ground, and a treasure worth protecting.
Or a desolate cliff strewn about with junk, depending on how you look at it.
I mean, a 100% speedrun of this game by somebody who knows exactly what they're doing is still like a 600-hour endeavor. It is crazy how much is going on there, but at the same time, they've managed to make it feel so smooth this time around. There were many cases where in the original, there were a lot of like little walls that I like to call them the level 30 wall and the Coda wall. Basically, if you were going through and you, for example, you got up to about level 30 accidentally, you could potentially leave yourself a little bit soft-locked. For folks that didn't know what to do at that point anyway, you could, for example, have situations where you went into the post game and again just had no clue what was going on. They had managed to fully smooth out that entire system. It just flows and flows and flows so perfectly this time. It's something you have to see to believe. And as far as those cards, by the way, there was a few folks that are wondering about the cards. We'll get into that more in the mechanical deep dive, but that system is pretty legit. And bear in mind, like I said earlier, there's a lot of mechanics that I have not even really gotten into yet. Like, for example, we're talking about right here, like, they added a system for upgrading unique weapons in the end game. This seems to work similarly to Vagrant's story, but this is one of those situations where I can't really dive deep into it right now, due to something that I will assume is going to be fixed in a day one patch. But yeah, no, like the versions that I've seen them showing that off, they have not run into that issue. That's why I'm positive that this is going to be one of the things that'll be already fixed by the time you're seeing this review. But I don't even want to get into what happened there. I can tell you on a mechanical level in the deep dive what probably happened there, but until then, I don't want to cover it. In terms of difficulty, by the way, they are going to make you work for that no incapacitations title. I'm just telling you now that no chariot, no incaps. I'm actually looking forward to it for the first time in a decade. It is pretty legit. It really, really makes you feel the kind of stuff that you're going for. And I want to point out there's these bait and switch moments that they've done throughout this entire game for the long timers that have been an absolute treat to me personally. Okay. Like, when I was looking and first getting into the game, we had moments like this, where I look over at the cudgels, and it's like, what's the cudgel's special deal this time around? Because it sure as hell isn't attack penetration. That attack value sucks. And then I end up looking at it, and it's like, okay, it's spell range +2. This must be what happened to an old skill called Engulf. Now, I'm going to take a bit of a tangent here to explain something. If you've ever played the remake of Resident Evil from the PS1 version up to the GameCube version, there was a moment that they did in that one wherein there was a dog that would jump scare you in the original. It would just jump through a window, it would spook you, it's a whole big spooky thing. But then when people got to that moment in the remake, they just hit the window and they cracked it. And they're like, oh, haha, you got me. They just cracked the window instead of jumping through. And then they would keep going through that hallway thinking, hey, they just made this room encounter easier, right? But yeah, then they walked through it a few times, and then finally, that dog jumped through the window and got him. So those kinds of moments, they have done with so many mechanics that long-timers might be familiar with. Like, for example, right here, I looked at this thing, and I saw, okay, spell range +2 on this particular cudgel. Bear in mind, we have seen in stuff that Matsuno has posted, this has gone up way higher. To my knowledge, I've seen as far as +6 range on spells possible so far. It's insane what this actually potentially brings to the table, by the way, because, well, certain spells, like, for example, Paradigm Shift, that were in the original one, are actually legitimately useful this time around without using scroll cheese. For newer folks, don't worry about it. It's just a thing you can do in the PSP version. You don't need to cheat to make Paradigm Shift good. It's actually balanced. I'm shocked that they managed to actually balance something that potentially broken. Technically, it works the same way, but it's just balanced by the way that the MP/ what used to be TP economy is handled. Just economically, it took a math genius to actually make all of this flow as well as it did. Again, mechanical deep dive for that, I need to stop myself right there. But okay, the story I was trying to get to here. So I see spell range +2. This is a skill this was a skill in the PSP version called Engulf that would increase the range of a wizard's spell, specifically just the wizard. So it was a little bit of a surprise because I was looking at that, I was thinking, oh, they've reworked Engulf, but they've made it like +1, +2, +3. Okay, that's pretty cool. Like, it must have been a simple little change. And then finally, partway through the game, it just rolls around with the, oh yeah, would you like actually Engulf rank 2 plus a double shot on your archers instead? It's like all new cross-classing opportunities, all new skills that just weren't available in certain classes. The reason this is significant is this is a skill that specifically cannot fire beyond your visual range under normal circumstances. So Tremendous was your firing beyond visual range ability. Double Shot was your way to kind of shoot faster up close. But now suddenly you can combine the extra range off this, combine it with this. But then at the same time you can also still stack this on top because all of these little activatable effects. You used to be limited to 1. Now there's seemingly no limit to how many you can activate at once. So, for example, a fun little combination is the Berserk can swing around in an AoE. He can also activate Sanguine Assault for 50% bonus strength, but then can also stand by nearby a Dragoon to turn on, let's say, Beastbane or Dragon's Bane or something like that. And then at the same time, let's say they want to like they want to go have a additional 25% damage on top of that, you would go to, well, he's a Buccaneer right now, but like his standard Vartan class has a ability that will trigger an errant still on units nearby him, so you would set him next to that one, and suddenly you have this guy that's combining all of these different effects to go kill 5 dragons in a row, like literally in a circle around him. It's just, these combinations are everywhere, and look, for the old-timers, guys, believe me, I was very skeptical about the system at first, but it combines so well that you have to feel it to believe it. It is incredible how good they did this. This is easily the most elegant remake that I've ever seen, and honestly, in my opinion, bar none, this is the finest SRPG ever made. And believe me, it takes me a lot to say that, considering how absolutely in love I am with the PSP version. And I'm definitely biased towards this story and stuff in general, but, whew, they did good. They did real good here. I mean, from music to just general action to strategy to everything else. The script may be identical to the PSP version. A lot of the tricks that you remember from the PSP version are here, but they're improved. Everything is just improved. It's absolutely an incredible experience. No questions asked, 100%. Is this worth your money? Is it fantastic? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is the definitive Tactics Ogre experience, no doubt in my mind whatsoever. This is, in my book, the best. It has taken the best of every part in the series. It's taken the like kind of cool, calculated, chaotic chaos of March of the Black Queen. It's taken the fantastic balance feeling from Night of Lotus, as well as just the general colorfulness to make everything pop. It's taken the amazing story and story interactions from Let Us Cling Together. It's added the training stuff that Ogre Battle 64 did, as well as adding a lot more equipment effects like that one did as well. And please bear in mind, again, I am reviewing this right now knowing that there is way more. You know how I know? Because they've actually managed to properly convey a lot of things. For example, you see this little green tint on these things over here? That's a +1. Okay, fantastic. But if we go look a little bit deeper, see that, oh wait, there's also things with an orange tint. There's also effects that are moved around from where they were before. Long story short, it's all here, and it's all better than ever. Alright, you guys have an awesome one. Take care.